There comes a moment in a deep connection when the silent part of the mind can no longer stay quiet. What you feel right now is not fantasy. It is not wishful thinking. It is the soft but powerful movement of another person wrestling with what your presence has awakened inside them. Somewhere in the hidden rooms of their inner world, they are standing at a serious crossroads, and every road in front of them seems to carry your shadow. They have spent so much time trying to distract themselves, trying to explain away the strength of this bond, trying to believe that distance, silence, or time would slowly erase what exists between you. But the inner self does not work that way. The more they tried to push this connection down, the more something inside them kept pulling them back toward it. That is because what happened between you was never shallow. It reached deeper than surface feelings. It touched the quiet foundation of who they are, and those layers do not disappear just because someone wants them to. Right now they are rethinking everything, not only your place in their life, but their own identity, their fears, their old wounds, and the limits they built to feel safe. Stay with me, because this is where everything starts to change. They are not just thinking about you. They are being forced to face themselves in a way they avoided for a very long time, and that changes the meaning of every silence, every memory, every step back, and every unfinished feeling still hanging between you. What they are deciding now is bigger than choosing whether to come closer or move away. The real question is whether they are ready to meet their true self, and that is often much more frightening than love itself. One part of them wants you with a force that feels natural, deep, almost impossible to argue with. Your absence feels like a space nothing else can fully fill. But another part of them resists with all its strength because being close to you would require honesty, openness, and inner change, and that kind of change can feel terrifying when someone has spent years protecting themselves. You may already feel the energy shifting, heavier, sharper, more intense. That is not random. That is what happens when someone stops running from the truth and starts sitting in front of it. They are asking themselves why you still stay in their mind, why your presence still echoes through their emotions, and why nobody else has been able to replace the depth of what they felt with you. This is the last stretch before clarity. The mind cannot stay divided forever. Sooner or later, it has to land somewhere real. If they return, it will not be because it is easy. It will be because they finally saw the true value of what was there. If they walk away, it will not mean you were not enough. It will simply mean they were not ready for the level of change this connection demanded. Let that sink in, because this part matters more than most people realize. At this point, they are carrying the heavy pressure of a choice that could reshape how they see their whole life. There is a fierce inner battle happening behind the scenes. On one side is an instinctive pull toward you, something that feels deeper than logic, filled with memory, longing, and a strange sense of home. On the other side is a loud protective voice built from old pain, past disappointment, and the fear of being hurt again. These two forces are crashing into each other, and that collision is exhausting them. They may bury themselves in routines, they may act normal, they may try to prove to themselves that this is only a phase, but the truth keeps pushing back. The harder they try to bury it, the more it rises. You did not just enter their life, you triggered something. You challenged the walls they built and the identity they created to survive. Now they are facing a brutal choice: remain the person they have always been, or become someone braver, more open, and more real. That is why you may have felt the inconsistency, the mixed signals, the pull one day and the distance the next. It is not always a game. It is often the natural result of a person trying to hold two opposite truths at once. They want the connection, but they are afraid of the cost. And once someone reaches this level of inner pressure, they cannot fake indifference forever. Keep listening, because this next shift is where denial starts to crack and real awareness begins to take over. A time comes when the fog begins to lift, not because the outside world changed, but because the mind reaches its limit. They are entering that phase now. For a long time they tried to tell themselves that their feelings were manageable, maybe exaggerated, maybe temporary, but real emotion does not stay frozen. It grows, it deepens, and eventually it asks to be seen. They are now having that quiet realization that what they feel for you is not small and not casual, and not something they can file away as a passing moment. It is becoming part of how they understand themselves. This awareness comes in waves, late at night, in still moments, in sudden memories they once tried to avoid. They are starting to notice how easily their mind returns to you, how your presence keeps humming in the background of their life. and how no distraction has been strong enough to fill the space you left behind. In many ways, your absence became the strongest teacher in this process. By stepping back, you left them alone with their own thoughts, and that empty space forced them to feel what was missing. Without noise, without excuses, without the comfort of your direct energy, they had to face the truth. They are beginning to see that what they had with you was not just comforting, it was stabilizing. It mattered more than they admitted. And when they look at other people now, they may find themselves comparing without even trying, only to realize that the spark, the depth, the strange emotional gravity they felt with you is not easy to find again. That realization hardens everything. Inside them, fear and desire are no longer standing far apart. They have collided, and now both are demanding to be heard at the same time. On one side is the deep emotional magnet pulling them toward you, not as a shallow attraction, not as a passing interest, but as something that feels right in a place words cannot fully explain. Being near you, even in memory, seems to connect them to a more honest version of themselves. It feels warmer there, more alive, more true. That part of them wants to stop resisting and cross the distance. But the other side is just as strong. It is built from fear. Not fear of you exactly, but fear of what loving you means. It wakes up old pain, old disappointments, old times when vulnerability ended badly. Maybe they do not even think of those memories clearly, yet those experiences still shape how they react. So the closer they feel emotionally, the louder the inner alarm becomes. It tells them to slow down, to hide more, to stay guarded, to protect themselves before the heart moves too far. That is why the push and pull feels so intense. One moment they imagine giving in to the truth of it. The next moment the fear rises and drags them backward. Both sides feel real to them. Both sides feel justified. That is what makes the struggle so draining. They are not confused about whether the feeling exists. They are overwhelmed by how powerful it is and unsure how to carry it without breaking the structure they built around themselves. And no one can stay trapped in that storm forever. A final moment is coming closer, whether they are ready or not. Until now, they have lived in hesitation, moving back and forth, overthinking every detail, trying to control something that already moved beyond control. But the human mind cannot stay in endless uncertainty when emotions grow this deep. At some point, a decision becomes necessary. That is exactly where they are now. This is not an impulsive turn. It is the result of everything they have been processing in silence. The longing, the confusion, the private reflection, the imagined conversations, the replaying of the past, the attempt to picture different futures. All of it has been leading here. If they seem more restless, more distant, or even more unsettled lately, that does not always mean fading interest. Sometimes it means the opposite. Sometimes it means they are processing something too important to treat lightly. They are starting to realize that staying in the middle, neither fully in nor fully gone, is draining them. It steals their energy. It keeps them stuck in a loop. So now they are being pushed to take responsibility for what they truly want, and that requires honesty. Real honesty. The kind that strips away excuses and forces someone to ask whether they are brave enough to leave the safety of old habits for a connection that asks them to grow. This carries a sense of finality. The phase of maybe is ending. The phase of what is begins here. If you are still listening, hold on, because this is the part where inner truth becomes too loud to ignore and action starts getting closer than ever before. What is happening inside them now is a deep process that will expose their true feelings in a way they can no longer twist or hide. For a long time, they used logic, distance, and silence to keep everything under control. They tried to contain what they felt, even from themselves. But emotions rooted this deeply cannot be managed forever. They are reaching the point where everything they buried is rising back up with unsettling clarity. This will not end in a random choice made on a passing mood. It will come from realization. When someone sits alone with their thoughts long enough, truth begins to win. They are seeing the gap between what they felt and how they acted. They are noticing the moments they stayed silent when they wanted to speak, the times they stepped away when they wanted to lean in, the coldness they showed while something warmer lived underneath it. That awareness is uncomfortable, but necessary. It is the bridge between fear and action. They are beginning to understand that avoidance did not protect them. It only delayed the moment they would have to face their own heart. This clarity is not being forced from outside. It is rising from within, quietly, powerfully, honestly. They can no longer hide behind uncertainty. The truth of this bond keeps showing up in their quietest thoughts, in memories, in private emotional flashes they cannot fully shut off. And whatever choice they finally make will reveal who they really are beneath fear, pride, and protection. That is why this moment matters so much. Not only because of what it means for the connection, but because of what it reveals about the person they are becoming. As this inner process grows stronger, they begin to look back at the story between you in a new way. It no longer feels like random moments or disconnected events. It starts to look like one complete thread, something that changed their inner world more than they first admitted. This shift in perspective is what breaks denial. They realize they are not only missing a person, they are missing the version of themselves that came alive around you. That version felt more open, more awake, more honest, more connected to life. And when they compare that version to the guarded, distant state they may be living in now, the contrast becomes painful. That pain creates clarity. It shows them that the safety they defended so hard may not be safety at all. It may be a private kind of exile, a life kept small to avoid risk. Slowly, the outside world loses its power to distract them. They can stay busy, they can work harder, they can meet people, they can fill their schedule. But underneath all of it, one current keeps pulling their thoughts back to the same place. This is where the ego begins to lose its battle with the heart. The ego wants control, it wants distance, it wants protection from possible pain. But the deeper self starts to understand that complete disconnection can become its own kind of suffering. So now they are weighing the safety of staying the same against the possibility of something much more alive. And for the first time, that possibility is starting to feel more valuable than the walls they built to defend themselves. Something quiet but powerful begins to happen once they stop fighting their own emotions. The frantic energy of indecision starts to settle. The noise becomes stiller. The endless mental arguments start to lose force. They are not fully free of fear, but they are no longer letting fear run everything. And that creates a strange kind of peace. Not because all answers are clear, but because the war inside them is beginning to slow down. They are standing at the edge of an old life, looking toward a new possibility, and realizing that the distance between those two worlds may be crossed by one honest choice. This is the moment of inner transparency. They can finally look at their own reflection and admit the depth of their longing without turning away. The silence that once protected them now acts like a mirror. It reflects the parts of themselves they tried to hide. They are seeing that by keeping you at a distance, they also kept a part of themselves locked away. That realization is humbling. It cuts through pride. It weakens performance. It strips away the false comfort of pretending not to care. They are reviewing the past with new maturity now. The conversations, the glances, the pauses, the moments where fear made the choices instead of truth. And slowly, they are beginning to place genuine connection above image, control, and emotional self-defense. That shift is everything. Because once someone starts valuing what is real more than what feels safe, their next move begins to form from a deeper place. And when that happens, even silence starts to carry the weight of something about to change. They are also beginning to feel something else now. Empathy. Not only longing, not only regret, but a clearer sense of what your absence may have felt like on your side. They are starting to understand that this connection was not just something that happened to them. It was something they helped shape, and something they also affected through avoidance, distance, or hesitation. That awareness changes a person. It moves them from a reactive state into a more responsible one. They are no longer only the one who felt afraid. They are becoming someone who sees the impact of their choices, and that is a major sign of inner growth. The weight of your absence served a purpose. It changed the chemistry of their confusion. What was once denial is turning into conviction. What was once mixed and cloudy is beginning to sharpen. The last pieces of hesitation are being burned away by one simple realization. They cannot keep living in emotional paralysis. The old language of should, maybe, and someday is losing its power. In its place comes a stronger word: must. They must acknowledge what is real. They must face what their choices have created. They must see where this path leads. Time no longer feels endless to them. It feels valuable. It feels non-renewable. And that creates urgency. This is not just thinking anymore. It is becoming a call to action. They are starting to understand that while the unknown can feel frightening, the familiar emptiness they have been living with may be even worse. And when a person finally sees that clearly, words that were never spoken begin pressing toward the surface. Step by step, breath by breath, they are moving closer to the place where silence can no longer carry the whole story. The truth inside them has grown too loud. What once felt easier to ignore now feels impossible to deny. At the center of all this is one undeniable fact: your presence changed them. You became a mirror that reflected something deeper back to them. You showed them potential, you stirred growth, you challenged old defenses. Even in distance, you remained a quiet force in their inner life, like a fixed point they kept returning to while trying to find their way through confusion. That is why this is not just about attraction or memory. It is about meaning. It is about the rare kind of connection that asks for honesty, maturity, and courage. They are finally reaching that level of awareness now. The static is fading. The path is becoming clearer. The question is no longer whether this bond mattered. The question is how much longer they can pretend it did not. As they continue through this process, their real feelings keep separating from the noise of fear and doubt. Layer by layer, the surface story falls away and the core stands exposed. Once that core is seen, it cannot be unseen. They are realizing that every attempt to control these emotions only made them stronger in the dark. And now that everything is coming into the light, they are left with one plain truth: what they feel is real, and real things ask to be answered in real ways. So this is where the journey leads, not to fantasy, not to vague emotion, but to clean, undeniable truth. Whether they move toward you or choose another path, it will come with more clarity than before. The inner noise is finally beginning to quiet down, replaced by a certainty that feels grounded, serious, and impossible to fake. They are standing in front of their own truth now, and they can no longer honestly say they do not know what they feel. That chapter is ending. What comes next will come from awareness, not confusion, from honesty, not escape, from a heart that has finally stopped running from itself. And that is why your task is not to chase, force, or try to control the outcome. Let the truth do its work. Let their inner process reach its own ending. Because whatever they choose will reveal the deepest version of where they truly stand. If they come forward, it will be because they finally found the courage to live in alignment with what they feel. If they do not, it will still not erase the reality of what this connection awakened inside them. Either way, the illusion is breaking, the pretending is ending, the hidden is becoming visible, and the honest choice that links their old life to whatever comes next is drawing near with every passing moment. This is the final stretch, the final clearing, the final soft collapse of doubt. And when the truth inside a person becomes stronger than the fear around it, something always changes, maybe quietly, maybe suddenly, but always for real.